Hi, everybody, and welcome to the iRock Knits podcast. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm recording a day early because I have book club starting tomorrow for the year, and I just thought it would be easier since we had just finished watching the Vikings game to just sit down and get the podcast done today. So here we are. My name is Cori Eichelberger, and I am located in the southwest corner of the Twin Cities in Minnesota. You can find me as iRock Knits everywhere on the internets, and iRock is Cori spelled backwards. But I do knit in a rocker recliner every day, except for right now. Right now, my number one activity is icing in a rocker recliner. So thank you to everyone who got in touch over the last 2 weeks and just reached out with kind words and thoughts about my surgery, and afterwards a couple of you sent me cards, which were super appropriate and very cute. Just kind of made my day to read some of those. I'm doing great. I had pain kind of the first night and into the first night and into the next day because I had a block for a number of hours after the surgery, so that that really helps when you can have a block like that, although you have this dead thing kind of hanging and it just swings and you can't it's just really an interesting sensation. But I am super pleased with my progress. I got my cast off Friday and my incision looks great, and the splint that they made for me is tiny, and I'm very thrilled about that. They kind of see how you're doing, see what kind of range of motion you have with your hand. I cannot move this joint right now. So I'm okay. I have to do this, and I have to do this a lot, but I can't move this one. And the biggest concern is don't fall, don't bump it, don't tweak it. So you just have to kind of, walk around a little carefully so that the dog doesn't bump it or, kind of tweak it so that you have a problem. Other than that, it's just going really well. I have to wear the brace up to 6 weeks. I will only be doing my PT in the brace for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Then I'll start doing PT out of the brace for a while. We'll kind of see how this particular brace that he made Friday works for me. But honestly, I couldn't be more tickled. At night, it aches, it throbs in the evenings a little, but I wouldn't call it like painful, just kind of, I kind of had that before, this dull aching. So I would say, well, it's not that much worse than what I had before. It kind of feels like what this thumb does a lot of the time too. So thank you so much. The procedure went super well. He said should have no problems with recovery. And then 3 months from now, I can turn around and do the other one, and then I'll have 2 good hands to continue to use. So I really appreciate everyone kind of thinking about me. I have a note here. Someone sent me a question via my website. I don't know if it was a viewer or not, but it came into our junk mail, and instead of me, because I get it as a contact form kind of a thing, and instead of me bumping it forward, I don't know what I did wrong, but it went away. Like it flashed on the screen and it looked like it was a question, and it's gone. And so if you sent me a question or comment of some kind and I did not respond to you, you're waiting, know that I will always 100% of the time respond to questions, comments, anything like that. Sometimes it takes me a little while on YouTube to get to all of them because I just try to do a few at a time. And right now the typing thing's going okay with 4 fingers, but not so much with the thumb. And the first few days I was typing a ton. So if you sent me any type of note, just please reach out again. Oh, the ebook brings so much joy to my life right now. It was just beyond my imagination. What you people did for me on that Monday and Tuesday was just glorious, which is one of my favorite words. Sales were through the roof, amazing. I deep discounted the ebook for those first 24 hours. That was my plan, to try to garner a whole bunch of interest, get it going on Instagram, on Facebook, kind of through my website, newsletter, just kind of get things kind of going there. and boy, did it. People really like a bargain. And then in 36 hours in, it went up to $7, and then it went up to $9. And I'm leaving it at $9 for the month. So I have the ebook cost at $16, which I think is fair, reasonable, and maybe a little on the low end. But all of the patterns in the ebook are based on one theme. And so I think if you're going to buy into that theme, you're going to go for like maybe 1, 2, or 3 of the patterns. But if you're not buying into that theme, then there aren't other options for you kind of in the book other than the stories that I wrote. So will you give me a little comment today about whether or not you liked the stories, and also what you might consider knitting? I did go through the whole book with everyone on the last podcast, so there are 8 projects from head to toe. You can cover yourself in knitting terms, or you can just use those as, jumping off platforms for other ideas that you might have to write words on things. So yes, could you write the word boo on something and use it for a Halloween gift? You certainly could. I put those charts in the ebook and the alphabet in the ebook for you to chart your own words. People are coming out of the internet to tell me all the things that they think they could make. College colored words and mascots and logos and belts and handles for several of you think that you should make the straps for the bag out of the lanyard, which I think is amazing. And you could absolutely line the lanyard with a piece of 1-inch mesh strapping to make it not stretchable at all. Several people talked about that, kind of lining that with, a piece of something that you have around your house. It could be bias tape that you would sew with, anything to just kind of make that a little more rigid. That would certainly work. I'm just tickled. Sales were beyond my expectations. I have broken even. My first pattern in 4 years to ever break even upon publication. Sometimes it takes years to break even with the money you've spent, and sometimes it just takes a few days. But the husband's question is always, is this book going to break even? And I did have a lot of money in it. I paid sample knitters, and I paid for all the yarn and all my time, and then the tech editor, the graphic designer. So, I had a significant chunk of change output since March, a little bit over time. It really adds up. At one point he said to me, "Do you think you could just back of an envelope estimate for me?" And I was like, no, I don't think I could. I absolutely could, and I know in my head what number I was shooting for to kind of break even. And now I'm at the point where I'm just paying myself a little money for the work that I did from March until the end of August. It's just very fulfilling when something you put out in the world that's a little quirky, a little kitschy, a little not for everybody, kind of blossoms into something that people say, this is great, right? Like, this is funny. I might not knit it, but I really appreciate it. I can see the work you put in it. I think it's great. Those comments just kind of fill your empty cup. And so I really appreciate every single comment that all of you made about the book and the amount of work that you could see that went into it. It just really warmed my heart. The book did go up the weekend after the surgery, and that was honestly such a good idea, because there are a lot of people, knitters in the world, who don't know how to use a coupon code, don't know how to check out on Ravelry, don't know how to buy things on Etsy, can't find a pattern and buy the wrong thing. They buy one pattern instead of the whole ebook. Here's my tip or trick for that. Don't hit checkout if it doesn't read what you want it to read. I just why would you check out if it only has the pillow in your cart, or if it only has the lanyard and you want the whole ebook, or if the coupon code is not taken off? It's not going to magically happen when you hit checkout. You have to put it in. So anyway, I did have some trouble with people struggling with that. And I was so glad because I don't mind helping. And now I have typed out all the directions for checking out for your first time on Ravelry. Like if you've never done that before, you don't know how. So I've written it out and I just copy and paste it to send it to, it's just a few people, but you want those people to be successful when they're going to buy your product. So I'm so glad that I had not put the book out and then had surgery that next day because, man. And I loved reading all the positive emails that I got. So it was just shocking to me how much time and energy it took that next day for me to follow the sales. And I turned my phone on. Here's another husband sneaky trick that I did. I turned my phone on so that every time I had a notification from PayPal that I got a payment, it would go cha-ching, cha-ching. And so he'd come in and he'd say, was that another one? And I'd say, yeah. And then he'd come in and he'd say, and I'd say, yes, there's sales. Sales are happening today, honey, because the book is $5. So it was really fun for him too. And actually he's asked a lot of questions about the marketing of the book and how I plan to do that. And would it have been easier or better for me to just sell all the patterns individually? Could I have made more money that way? Or did it, was the only way to do it to bundle it? And just a conversation around my business and how that's working is not something we normally have because I usually put out one book at a time. So yeah, we've been having, a good time, and I just want to thank all of you. Several of you chose to not use the coupon code, and I know who you are. Someone asked, and yes, I can see it on Ravelry. If you pay the full price, I can go down and it can say 555555516, 555555516, like that. So I am able to see who that is, and I thank you profusely for paying the full price. It is not necessary, but very welcome, especially in those first few hours when I was so nervous about whether or not anyone was going to buy my book. So I can see that. I get an email on every sale, but when you start getting up there in the 100 sold, 200 sold, you can't open and look at every single one. Usually I do. I open every single one and I say thank you to the person who purchased a pattern from me. But now it's become, oh my gosh, the email was full of Ravelry download, Ravelry download, Ravelry download. So I really appreciate it. Okay, I have a couple other things to talk about today. One more thing. I am giving away the ebook to any LYS in the world who would like a copy of it for free. If you tagged an LYS on Instagram, but the LYS did not notice it or did not send me their Ravelry ID, I couldn't gift it. I could go out and look at every single LYS on Ravelry, but some of the owners have their own Ravelry ID and they wanted it sent there, and some yarn stores have a Ravelry ID, and sometimes it's spelled a little different or it has initials for the town it's in. So unless I know their Ravelry ID, I can't gift it to them for free. So you might want to check to see if they got it, and if they didn't get it, you can just send me an email or a message on Ravelry or a message on Instagram and say, please gift this book to this Ravelry ID. And you can go look it up. If you can find your yarn store on Ravelry and find what the ID is, then you can just tell me and they don't have to know, and then I will say to them, you have been gifted this because someone, and if I know who you are and I can find your name quickly, then I'll put your name in there, which is what I've been doing. So, and I have gifted ebooks to Australia and New Zealand and Scotland, and that has just been very fun too, and they're very excited about it. They're so thankful that they were given a copy and that they could have something in their shop. They could make up some samples, they could print out the cover. I told them they could print out a pattern or two and have them, laid out for people to see, however they wanted to use it. So I just want to be clear that I have gifted to every single person that I have been able to. And then there are some people who tagged on Instagram and the yarn store didn't get in touch with me, and you didn't give me their Ravelry ID, and I have not been able to gift it yet. I'm working through those, and so I'm going in and copying, pasting a note in to the person saying, if you would like this, please send me a Ravelry ID. It's just taking me a while because there were, I don't know, 70 or so people that got tagged that didn't have anything listed for me to gift it to. Okay? I have just a short little audiobook review this week. I finished my book club book for tomorrow. It's called This Tender Land by William Kent Krueger, and it was good. He's an amazing writer. I've read many of his other books. He is a Minnesota author. That's one of the reasons that we're reading him for our first one in September here. However, it's sad. I talked briefly about that at the beginning of the podcast last time, and I like learning when I read, and I'm learning a lot about how we treated Native Americans in South Dakota. Although I grew up in that state, so I was very well aware of the reservation situation there and the poor and the struggles that they have. But this, is a home for Indian children who have been taken away, and they're being taught to be more white, and the woman and man who run the school are not good people, and then these kids run away. And so that it's going to get better, but those first few chapters were hard, right? Hard to read. Necessary to listen to, probably, right? Like if I'm going to have empathy, I need to know the details of some of that. But anyway, so This Tender Land, William Kent Krueger. I'm getting ready to download Children of Blood and Bone. That's the new one. I just got it on Libby yesterday. I saw that it was available in my hold list, so that's what I plan to do next. If anybody's read that, let me know. Children of Blood and Bone, I think that's what it's called. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, I have a recipe for this week as well. Of course, at my house, it's always about, tacos or Mexican food or something like that. So we were discussing what we're going to have for food this week at our house. And so we're going to make oven tacos, which I haven't made in a while. And they're super simple. It's just a baked taco. We use hard shells, and then when you bake it with everything all in it, they get a little soft on the bottom. It's just kind of a different makeup of ingredients. So a couple of pounds of ground beef or chicken or turkey, a small diced onion, a small can of diced green chilies, the recipe for the homemade taco seasoning, which is the one that I've previously linked on my Ravelry group, 8-ounce can of tomato paste or tomato sauce, refried fat-free beans. I don't know why they're calling for fat-free. You could use full fat, I'm sure. 2 cups of shredded reduced fat. This must be coming from a low-calorie website. It's the Blog Chef. That's what I use. Colby Jack cheese, and then 18 to 20 hard shell tacos. Preheat your oven, make your beef, and drain it, and then put in everything into the beef. So you mix the refried beans in with the beef and the chilies and the onions and the tomato sauce and the taco seasoning. So you get this kind of mixture that then you spoon into tacos shells that stand straight up in your pan. And I have a pan that has a little higher sides, and so I can fit, I think, like 5 tacos this way and 2 this way to get our family. That's how I always get that pan out. And then you bake them in the oven at 400 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes. So it's quick. Once you've mixed, the whole meal is fairly quick. Then when you take them out, you add all of your toppings. You can put lettuce and tomato and sour cream and salsa and guacamole and olives, any of that, tomatoes, anything you want on the top of your taco. I would say sometimes we eat them with our hands and sometimes we eat them with a fork kind of depends on how much meat I put in that shell, how long I bake it for, and how soft kind of the bottom can get. It's almost like eating half a soft shell taco and half a hard shell taco, but anyway, we really enjoy it. So I will put that in my Ravelry group. If you go to Ravelry and you go to the tabs at the top and you go under groups, then you would type in I Rock Knits and it'll come up. And it's one of the threads that is linked at the top, and it says recipes of the week, and then they're all in there in order. You just scroll up until I have a list of all of them at the top, every single title, and then it will tell you what thread number it is. So if it's 25 or 27 or 28, I add the actual recipe at the bottom of the thread every week. But I tell you in the first paragraph where the link is. You could scroll through them all. There aren't that many. I haven't been doing it the entire time that I was doing a podcast, but there you go. So let's have oven tacos this week and tell me whether or not you enjoy them. I have a couple of tips or tricks for you, not a lot. This week I've been a little busy. I have a story to tell you at the end today. But I saw on Instagram that Cosmic Pluto, who I follow, was re-waxing some wooden needles with cutting board wax. And I thought, really? So this was the post, if you want to go look at it on Instagram, Cosmic Pluto. And I thought, wow, if I exclusively use wood needles. I rarely use a metal needle, but I have never conditioned my needles. And I suppose that there are times when they're getting dry or brittle, I do get breakage or kind of scuffed, that maybe just putting a little wax on and then wiping it off, which is what she did. And she gave a little description for how she did it. So I'm not going to take credit for this idea. But she rubbed it on, and then she took like a paper towel or a soft cloth and just kind of removed the excess, and then just set them out and then wiped them again a little bit later. But I thought, wow, that's super interesting. So I plan to do that. I'm going to condition my needles. I mean, they are the tools of my trade, and I'm not knitting right now. So I'm looking for things to do in quarantine when you're not knitting. But I mean, I have plenty. I have a whole list of things that need to be done around this house. So then I saw also on Instagram that Lorilee Beltman, who is a knitwear designer, who I've talked about before on my podcast, posted that the Bluprint Craftsy classes that were previously recorded are going to be on the Great Courses. So if you're at all familiar, the Great Courses is a website where you can take classes to learn about things that you're interested in. And they hire professional, really top-notch teachers to discuss topics of interest. And apparently they either purchased or have some type of agreement. And Susan B. Anderson commented below in this thread saying, I had no idea. I just heard that was happening, and she has a bunch of classes on Bluprint. So if you had classes that you thought you might want to take at some point, and then Bluprint went away like me, and you were like, I'm so sad I didn't buy all those on that last day, I didn't know. I think they're currently uploading. I'll show you what Lorilee Beltman's post looked like, because sometimes that helps you to go find it. So this is what it said. Her class was Knitting 101. And then the Great Courses is now uploading those. So that's kind of fun. I figured somebody would figure out, kind of what to do with that whole Craftsy Bluprint thing. I just didn't know really who or how or when. And it has been purchased, and they are giving you back your back catalog, and they're figuring those things out. I talked about that previously, but I just didn't know about future updates and whether you could purchase things ever again, right? Like you were going to get your thing. I thought it was going to be like a housing place, but I didn't know if you could go out and purchase. So that's kind of cool. Okay, I I have a summer top and a fall shawl to talk about today. I don't know, it kind of fell this way alphabetically, and I just keep plodding along through these, but let's finish up with the summer top here. This is an interesting camisole, and I felt like I've talked about this one a lot, and I think it's just because I teach it in class, and I was like, haven't I talked about that yet? Anyway, so I have a couple of points with this. Number 23 lace up camisole that came out in Vogue Knitting spring summer of 2005. So if you're a Vogue Knitting collector, you have 2005, you have this pattern. It's by Shirley Paden, amazing knitwear designer. It's 18 stitches and 29 rows on size 5 and 7 needles, and then it is laced up the front part of the way, and I chose not to do that. I just knit my top in the round. So I'm going to put a picture on the screen so you can actually see what it looks like in several iterations on the pattern page. And I usually wear mine with like a white shirt underneath it, but it does have little straps. If you do the lace up version, there are smaller straps, and I just kept mine wider. And I had a dye lot problem. Can you see it? Actually, I had two dye lot problems. So I got all the way to the top of this pattern, and didn't have the same dye lot. And so originally, I knew that I had a problem when I knit, I think, the front and back lace pieces to the underbust. And you really do want that line to kind of hit you at your underbust so that you don't have this kind of line here at the widest part of your bust line, but I'll turn it around and show you what. So I had knit up to the underbust and up higher on the front piece, and then I had a skein of yarn that I hadn't checked my dye lot for, and it had a line, and I didn't have any way to figure that out. So this is what I did. I changed yarn at the where this would be kind of at the underbust in the front, and just continued up with this cabled section. So you have lace here, stockinette here, and cables in this section. And this top is so cute worn, and I just decided that I didn't care enough at the time to fix it, to figure out how to make it. I think if I had to go back, I would do a separate color at the top, completely different color where my dye lot problem happened, because I think that would have just been fine to have like a color blocked top. But I keep it in the sweater class just to kind of to remind people over and over and bang you over the head with the fact that, number one, you always need to buy enough yarn, and number two, you always need to check your dye lots. Anymore, I think more and more people are buying indie dyed yarn and alternating skeins because they know that the skeins can be different within an actual dye process. But if you're buying even commercial yarns and you don't have the same dye lot, you're going to run into this kind of problem. So cute top, dye lot issue. Little reminder for everyone, when you're purchasing, if you're purchasing online, a lot of times yarn companies will have a caveat on their website that will say, we will try to provide the yarn in all the same dye lot if at all possible, but there are times when we don't have enough in stock. So even if you buy it online and they send it to you, there's a chance that you won't get the same dye lot. They should contact you and let you know, but that doesn't always happen. And I think a lot more people are buying their yarn online right now, because for a while there, we weren't even going into local yarn stores. So just a gentle reminder, I love the top, it's super cute. I have a few summer knit tops, but not as many as fall, winter, spring sweaters. So I like to keep that one in the mix, just to say it was very, very cute and fun to knit and quick. Like it's, I did mine in a cotton, worsted weight cotton, and it knit up super quickly, and yeah, has a nice little drape at the bottom. The shawl of the week is a special shawl to me. This is the Red Robin Shawl by Helen Stewart. It came out in November of 2013. And the yarn that I used for this was hand-spun yarn that was gifted to me from a dear friend, Vicki, who used to have a podcast back in the day. Vicki, I should check and see. I don't know that you watch all of these, and I should check and see if your old catalog is still out there for people to watch. Heartland Knits. Vicki is probably one of the best knitters I know. She's a technician, and she's amazing. Tons of knowledge. Really, really lovely person and great contact. And we used to see each other at knitting events all the time, and she sent me this for my birthday because she thought it said Cori, and it does, absolutely. It's got the orange and the reds, which I absolutely love. So it's a pretty simple stitch pattern. It is a triangle. I love that it has these tassels on either end, and that the gradient that she did completely went through all of the colors. I was able to just, get down to the entire end here before I worried about casting off. So I will give you some information here. It came out in the Essential Shawls Knit Vent of 2013. It is fingering weight, 18 stitches and 32 rows in 4 inches on a US 6. It takes 400 to 420 yards. I had more than that. It is for sale on Ravelry for $5 British pounds. Red Robin Shawl was my very first knit vent design. This cheery light shawl will brighten up the bleakest months of the year like the warbling notes of its namesake. The main body of the shawl is worked in a super speedy stockinette stitch, and the textured border is so straightforward it won't slow you down much. The elongated triangular shape is emphasized with bouncy tassels at the points. It can be made with one skein of sock yarn, and all sections of the shawl can be easily adjusted to the amount of yarn you have. The finished measurements for it look like it's about 50 inches wide and 17 inches deep. So there are 500 projects about on Ravelry. So very popular, fun, easy. I would say, if you like big swaths of stockinette to start working on, especially if you have color changing yarn, because that's just motivating and beautiful to see, then I would highly recommend this as an option. It is just so special to me that someone spun the yarn. I don't have a lot of spinners in my life. I have a couple of spinners in my life. Matt has spun some yarn for me that I've just recently, in the last year, knit up. And then I had this from Vicki. So it just, it means a lot. So what am I wearing today? This is what I call my orange feather and fan, but it was originally called the FairyDust, and I talked about it on another episode. It was a drops pattern, so it was very poorly written. I think you'll remember that drops patterns are kind of more of a recipe, more general instructions, but then the tech knitter wore it to yarn over, and I saw her pink one, and then she had written a bunch of instructions about how to attach the sleeves and kind of get the whole thing going. So I know my friend Mary Asvik has knit one or two of these, and she really appreciated having those notes from the tech knitter as well. So I have a little trinkets on today. I've talked about this many moons ago on the podcast. She has an Etsy site, and I usually see her at ZK. She makes knitters jewelry, and these are just little clips that clip on to the edge of your sweater. I really struggled to get this one clipped on today because I can't, so I had to clip with this hand. And I want you all to try to put your deodorant on with one hand tomorrow, okay? Just as a reminder about how nice it is to have two hands, because this one's fine. This one, And I thought to myself, I just, take it for granted. It's like, oh my goodness, how do I do this? So anyway, lesson learned, right? It's good to know those things. I forgot to continue to talk about this, but this is my Tix trinket, Tix on Etsy, and mine says noted in the circle. So like noted, little sassy. I kind of like it. It just has a little jewels hanging down and clasps on either side. So, but originally this was called FairyDust, number 127-40. And I knit mine in Cascade Ultra Pima cotton. It has washed and worn just beautifully. I made mine long. There is a shorter version. You can, do with it what you will, but a great little pattern if you know where to look for the notes on it. I had a couple of notes last time about my new music that I'm using for the podcast for season 3, and a few people mentioned that the music is too loud, and I can turn the music up and down. I usually turn it down to 80 so that it doesn't start out blasting and then you have to turn me up and then it's blasting at the end. So I'll try to turn it down a little more, and people can let me know if that is still an issue for them. I don't want you to be blasted out with, although the music is pretty, right? But I did get a lot of positive comments. A few people really miss the previous episode's music, but you kind of have to change it up. And I did get kind of tired of getting a copyright strike every single podcast for the last 2 years, right? So that's all gone now. And it is New Day by Ikson, Ikson is the music that I'm using on the new podcast. Another special note that I have this week is that I am still looking for a few test knitters. I put out a call to my test knitting pool where you can get on a list to get email from me every time I am putting out test knitting calls to a large group of people, and then you can choose to respond to it or not. And you can go to my Ravelry group, and in the notes, one of the threads says test knitter information. You can go and read the front page to find out what all test knitting is about. But I have a bunch of new designs coming out, and I need to get on it because I got behind with the ebook. So I am going to ask that if anyone is interested in colorwork mittens or hat, a small baby blanket, like a carry with baby blanket, like a over the car seat baby blanket, that I have testing calls out for that. Then I'm going to have a testing call coming out for a dog lovers hat. I'm going to have a testing call coming out for a shawl in October. So if you have interest in those things, I still have a few openings. I pretty much filled my, I'm going to call it a sweater. It's not a sweater. Test knit pool for September right now. But if you love to knit and you can knit fast and you don't have something else on your plate right now, I could use a few more testers for that item that's coming out October 1st, which means it's a super fast turnaround. And that's what my Cori story is today. So let me tell you what happened. Back in March, February, the Toad Hollow ladies, Mary Beth and Helen, reached out and said, would you be interested in designing something with our fairy tale collection this year? And I said I would. And so they said, we're going to send you a list of the fairy tales, so I know what they are, and also what colorways we're kind of thinking, like what we're leaning toward, and then would you want to pick a few? So I did. I picked 3. So my shawl came out, the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, my Hi-Ho shawl came out in April, and then I picked the fairy tale for August and the fairy tale for December. And I decided to write an ebook because quarantine happened. So I got in touch with the ladies and I said, hey, I'm writing this ebook and August isn't going to work for me So do you want me to just not do it? Or do you, what could we work out here? And they said, no problem, we'll move it to October. And I said, great, that'd be awesome. Now, at the time, October seems really far away. And I'm writing an ebook, and I'm having thumb trouble, and I'm struggling to knit as much as I would like, as often, all day. And I'm a little frustrated, and we're all on quarantine, and, things are weird. And so I had to kind of sample out some of my design work and pay people to sample knit. And then the ebook was technically supposed to be done on August 21st. Jean, my wonderful, amazing tech editor, said, we can have this done by August 21st. I said, that would be great. I need it to come out because I'm going to have surgery this fall. And that, that's how we kind of left it. Well, then August was like creeping along. Has this ever happened to anyone? And you're not there, and you're still writing, and your testers are testing, and I did struggle with some test knitters this last time that didn't fulfill their obligation to me, and kind of quit communicating with me. So I was kind of stuck in a bind on some yardage situations and trying to figure things out. But what happened was I said, when I go on vacation, I'm going to design the October design. I'm going to take all the yarn. They sent me the yarn. I had a plan. I had an idea. I had notes. And I have, time up north to knit on it. And usually when you have a design idea, you know that you're going to change it a little. But this time I'm going to have to stick with it, right? Because I have to, as soon as we get home from vacation, put out the test call. And it didn't go to plan. So I had an all over stitch pattern. When I get a design collaboration, some of you might be interested in this, I will usually give the yarn people some choices because I figure it should fit their aesthetic as well, not just what I might want to design with it. And so I gave Mary Beth and Helen like 5 choices, and I held them up for them, and they're like, oh, that's the one, we want you to go with that idea. And so it was going to be a little different than what than they chose, because I can tell you it was going to be all over fisherman's rib. I was going to use a bigger needle and DK weight yarn, and I was going to do this fisherman's rib. And it was just slow going, the knitting, and taking so much yarn. So in that moment, you have that little voice, and you start thinking, oh, I'm going to have to make this. I'm going to have to change this a little bit. I should change this away. And also, when you're designing a sweater, which is not a sweater, but I normally cast on my size. Those are the numbers I know best, right? I know my numbers, up and down, backwards, inside, outside. So I'm also knitting on a large circumference because larger person. And it was just taking me so long, and I was struggling, and I joined something together, and the join wasn't working, and I kept knitting. Follow your own advice, Cori. Listen to the voices in your head. And so I was frustrated, but I finally got it to kind of work, and I thought this is going to be okay. And my test knitter, Stacy, who knits most of my samples, is the fastest knitter I know, and I know that she's okay with having me put a note in the pattern that says, is this working right here? Like, it's working in my head, but I can't knit it, or I haven't gotten to that point, or do you like the way it looks? And she'll she'll call me and say, yeah, this works fine, or no. And so I sent off the pattern to her unfinished, because I got, about this much knit. And then we came home from vacation early. Remember that part of the story? And I needed those last couple days to finish the design. But I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be okay. I know what I'm doing. I have a plan now. And I finished the ebook. I spent that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of that kind of weekend when we got home, finishing the ebook, and kept saying to myself, I'm going to get back to finishing writing the other pattern. And there was this part of me that was saying, you're having thumb surgery. You don't have time to do this. You don't have a prototype knit. It's not completely written. You're probably going to have to back out. Like that's where my head was at. I was feeling like you overcommitted. If you're going to write an ebook and then you have 5 or 6 other designs and another collaboration coming later this winter, and you can't knit, you probably are going to have to call Toad Hollow and say, I messed up. So I had my hand surgery, and I came home that day, and I was feeling really pretty good. And so I was watching podcasts, laying in the chair, icing my hand, my frozen hand, because it was completely numb for many hours. And I was watching the Toad Hollow ladies, and she has this picture, and she doesn't show anybody, but she holds it up and she goes, "You guys are going to be so excited. You are not going to believe Cori Eichelberger is designing our October colorway with the fairy tale." And I'm in the chair going, oh, shit. I can't back out. Like, I have the idea. I have the plan. I don't know how to execute it in the next day. And so I'm watching her, and I'm laying back, and I'm thinking, oh no, what am I going to do? I've got to get this done. And I say to myself, on the computer, right? You can write this. You've written tons of patterns. You've knit tons of patterns. You can get this done. The ebook is done. You have to help some people get some other things done here. And I'd been in the office for 5 or 6 days straight. 12, 14-hour days. Like, get up in the morning, in the office, eat lunch at the desk in there, writing, changing, moving things around in the ebook, picking different pictures. We didn't have a cover. She sent me 4 cover choices. I had to ask Amber, what do you think? Because they're her pictures, right? I want her to have some, and she's like, oh, number 3, but I think we need to make this as a change. And then she sent it to me. She's saying, I think we're done. And then I sent it to Amber to do a kind of a review, because her pictures, and Amber's like, you don't have a back cover. If this is going to be a book, you need a back cover. So like, this stuff was all happening leading up to those kind of 3 days before my surgery. And I was just, 1, 2 in the morning, I was still in there in the office. I didn't see TV. My husband would come in and say, you can't put this much pressure on. It's a knitting ebook, right? And I'm like, no, we're gonna get it done. We have to get it done. I had an interview with Christy Glass on Tuesday in the morning, and then I said to Christy, when will this go up? And she says, well, I have a bunch of interviews in the can, so it could go the end of October. And I said, oh no, I would love it to be as soon as possible, because the ebook's going on sale. And so she looked at her calendar, and she's like, it can go up on Tuesday, the 8th of September. And I was like, okay, that's great. But then that gave me another deadline that the book had to be out on the 7th, because then Christy's interview is going live, and she has thousands of followers. And if the ebook's not for sale at that point, lost sales. So anyway, I decided I could bang it out. I also decided that this was a simple design and would be easy to write, 10 sizes, 2 lengths, short and long, 12 pages. Most of you know, if you've, maybe some of you have never knit one of my patterns before, but I write checklist patterns. So every line of what you have to do, every instruction, almost entirely is written out. If it's not written out and it's a repeat of a line, you have a checkbox for it. So my patterns are long, but you'll never lose your place if you're marking your checkboxes off. You can come back 2 years later and you'll know right where you left off. And so I really do like a good checklist. I'm a checklist person in my real life. I make lists and cross things off. That's how I like to roll, so that's what works for me. But Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I am deep in. You're being serenaded. So I send out the email to all my testers and I basically put it out there on the line. I've gotten myself in a bind. I had the idea. It's mostly written. I don't have a prototype that's complete. So the pattern is not going to be perfect. It needs to go to the tech editor before it should go to you, but I can send you the first few parts so you could get started. But if you have the time, energy, and ability to get it done by the end of September, I would be forever in your debt. And I have 10 sizes, so I like to have 2 people for each size. And 13 people stepped up, which is amazing, right? I had 13 people say, yes, I have DK weight. Yes, I could start it right away. Yes, I could get it done. Yes, I will knit this size, and I'm figuring out sizes. And we always get these people who are right in the middle who can knit your 42, your 44, and those get filled. And then you don't have the itty bitty person, and you don't have the bigger people. And so I could still use that if you're interested. But if you're right in the average, in the middle of the, the sizes 3, 4, and 5, or 4, 5, and 6, right in the middle, I don't need those. But I go up to 55, and I don't have any 55s. I have a 58, and I don't have anyone at that smallest 32, I think. So anyway, then I'm writing, and I said, okay, I'm just going to copy and paste the first 2 pages of what I have and send it to the group, and they can get started. And then I contacted Jean and said, the pattern is ready, and she has had it on her list because she knew that this was coming. And she said, no, okay, great, no problem. I will get, first thing on Monday, I will get to it. And I was like, nope, you don't get to it on Monday. So I sent her a follow-up email and I said, is there any way you could look at the first 2 pages today? Because what I sent out originally when I knit it, I had an extra stitch and I don't think it's working. I'm like trying to juggle and do something not very professionally at this moment. And so Jean said, sure, tomorrow morning I have a Zoom call, but then I'll get on it and then I'll get it out. So then I paused the testers who were doing gauge swatches and washing their swatches and checking their gauge and getting ready to start, but they're waiting, right? They're like, okay, you're giving us 21 days or something to knit this. We need it. And so Jean got back to me and I sent the first 2, and now it's Sunday and they're already done with the first 2 pages. They're so fast and they're waiting, because when you ask your tech editor to work, like I asked my tech editor to work the last 2 weeks before that book was due, and the hours, she does a bunch of other jobs. My little business is not her only job, although I feel like I could employ her full-time some weeks, some days for sure. So it is going to work out, but it's going to be a push here. She'll get the pattern tomorrow morning. She'll tech edit all the numbers, which basically means she's putting it in Excel and she's checking all my numbers. And I don't do Excel because I'm old school and I never learned it. And so I write it all out. I have hundreds of sheets of paper with every size and every increment, and then I calculate it. I calculate her. I sit and I say, okay, we're doing this, and then you're going to cast off this many on this size, and then on the next size up you're going to cast off this many, and then the next size up you're going to cast off this many, and then that's how I write it. And so it's very my pattern writing process is very labor intensive because I'm not efficient. And Jean is efficient, and she'll take my pattern and drop all the numbers in, and then she'll get back to me and she'll say, this is wrong. You screwed this up. And I fixed it. This is a fix for it, or how do you want to fix it? And then I have to, so I'm really praying that what I have for tomorrow is a lovely pattern that multiple people can knit. And I think, so I have moved forward to working on the other patterns that I have coming out shortly. I have a new cowl coming out with Toad Hollow's Halloween minis. We're going to do I did a tiny little collaboration design with that, but it will be a pattern that anyone can use for any minis as well. And I am just so thankful for people in the world who will pick you up when you fall down and you don't plan well. And you think you can do things, but you can't. Anyway, that's my Cori stories this week. If you are interested in testing for me or not, you're thinking, oh, that's a whole hot mess that I don't want to get involved in. What are you gonna do, right? Life, like sometimes you're just not, you are who you are, and you overcommit. And I should have designed that in July and stopped working on the ebook and then come back to the ebook. But at the time, October, right? Like, didn't October seem a long way away? And now it's like here. We've had cool weather here in Minnesota suddenly, and it's going to be warm again this week. But boy, the last week when I was recouping and then, pain medication, icing. I was icing. Then I was going to the office and I come out and ice for a while. My husband was helping. I have my knee ice machine, it's like a cooler jug, and then the water goes down into the hose and you can wrap it around. And so then he'd fill that, and I couldn't get the top off and on, and he's cooking for me. I can't unscrew things, for the first few days. And so it is, probably not the best time to say, oh yeah, why don't you work on, finishing up some designs. I hope you're all laughing with me and not at me, but sometimes you gotta laugh at people too. I think I'm just gonna wrap this up today. I have a baby Kiki pattern to kind of rework. I had a friend look at it and give me some really good feedback. She was looking to knit something, and I said, well, I don't know how well it's written, but if you want to take a look at it. And so I want to make some changes to that so that Jean can have that this week as well. And we are gonna go to the grocery store. My husband had not set up a home office yet since he has been staying home. He's an executive at a company downtown, and he thought he would be going back. And they didn't start staying home until June when the riots happened. I think I mentioned that. And so yesterday we ran to Best Buy and we bought him the things he needs to get started with an upstairs playroom turned bonus TV room turned office, because he was just still working on a laptop, sitting in a chair with his laptop propped on another chair. And because I'm in the office all the time, all the hours, every day. And I told him, I'll move out of the office. You should have it. I can go upstairs. All my yarn could go up. All my yarn bags could go up. There's a closet in that bonus room upstairs. It doesn't have, there are still Legos and American Girl dolls, and then also purses and backpacks from my daughter that are in that closet upstairs. But otherwise it would be just fine for me to have all my stuff upstairs. And he goes, you don't want to be going up and down the stairs. I said, I have a new knee. Yes, for years I did not go up and down stairs well, but I have a new knee now, so I could go up and down stairs. He said, no, I think I would prefer to stay up there. That's where I've been. And so we got him a big monitor and keyboard, and we're doing the stand-up desk kind of option. Kylie and Stevie are going to Costco to get him a chair. They have office chairs, lazy boy office chairs at Costco, like the big box store, for a couple $100. Kylie had seen them because she needed an office chair, and they moved in, and she said, I couldn't afford the $200 one, Dad. I got the $60 one, but if you want the $200 one, we could pick it up for you. And we need a piece of that plastic for the floor because there's carpet in there, so you want to be able to kind of wheel your office chair. And so he's doing that right now, busy things, and we're gonna run to the grocery store and grab a few things for the week to kind of get us through. And then I'm just gonna be juggling test knitters here in the next couple of weeks, getting things finished up and watching ebook sales. If you have not gotten an ebook yet, you can purchase it on Etsy. My Etsy shop is iRockKnits. You can purchase it on Ravelry, and it will soon be up on Love Crafts as a option, I believe. We're still working through whether or not Love Crafts will allow me to have an ebook, but it kind of looks like they will. But the price is $9 through the end of the month. And so you do not need a code on Etsy or Lovecrafts. It will just be marked as $9. But on Ravelry, it is a code because the original price I had to put in was $16. And so you use coupon code KNITWORDS, all one word, all caps, KNITWORDS. It's the name of the ebook. It's everywhere on my Instagram. That's all I'm putting up these days, is what the projects were and that kind of thing. So. I have some yarn to give away this week. I did the drawing. I was going to wait, and I thought, why not give it to the people who watch the podcast right away, and then that way I can get it shipped out and you guys can start knitting. So the greens, number 1, the greens go to number 25, Fibromancer 8, and that is Sonya in Virginia Beach, Virginia. So congratulations, Sonya. Send me your first, last name, and your address to my email or on Ravelry or on Instagram. Doesn't matter to me. I just need all your deets so I can send it out. Cori at irocknits.com works. The neutrals. So this is the whole neutral bag here. That is going to number 98, KL Larson 2. And KL Larson 2, you don't have any information on your Ravelry page. So I don't know your first name. I don't know where you live. But you won. So get in touch and give me all your information. Number 3 is the purples with the grays. And there's a pink one in there too. And that one goes to number 4, mcradnor, Mary in Hayes, Kansas. So congratulations, Mary, you got the purple. I think that was one of the most popular colors. People liked number 3. They really wanted number 3. Of course, I would have gone for number 4 because those are all the Cori colors, and there's way more yarn in this bag. This is a lot bigger bag of leftovers, and that goes to brendij in Cooper City, Florida. Number 89. So Brendij J, send me your information. And the last one is the red, purple, and gold bag. So these are the bigger worsted weight skeins. And that goes to number 20, magundie in Judi in California. So congratulations to all those people, and just get in touch and I will get it shipped out, in the next week or so. I'm usually pretty good. We go to the post office quite a bit. So I will package it up and ship it out to you. And then if you will always let me know that you received it. And then I hope that you all knit with it right away, right? Like that's my goal in giving away the yarn. You don't necessarily have to knit something from the KnitWords book, but don't just stash it and, put it away in a closet somewhere. Use it and tag us and let us see what beautiful things you're making. To end the podcast today, I have a little funny for all of you. After my surgery, on the way home, of course, my husband couldn't go in with me because that's not allowed. So he came home, and then several hours later, he came back to get me. And I don't really remember the ride down in the wheelchair downstairs to get picked up. I do remember getting up into the car, and we stopped at the pharmacy on the way home because they had called in my pain medications. And so he said, I'm just going to run in. Are you going to be okay in the car? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Well, apparently, I was still a little under the influence and a little loopy. And I looked down at the console in between the seats of the car, and his phone was sitting there. And apparently, I decided that it would be a good idea to call my daughter in that moment. And so on his phone, I hit his emergency contact, called my daughter in an emergency. She didn't pick up because she was doing something, and saw it just a few minutes later. And I proceeded to record a message to her while under the influence of some surgical anesthesia. And because it was on a voice message, she had it. And so later that afternoon when I was feeling better, she said, Mom, do you remember calling me this morning? And I said, maybe. And she said, you were at Cub Foods and you didn't know where Dad went and you love me a whole lot. She said, I'm going to send you the recording, Mom. So I have a recording, and I'm hoping I can figure out how to put it at the end because it's hilarious. I really like my nurses. I really like my doctor. I really like little cans of Diet Coke. And I posted on Instagram because I sent the message to Amber right away and to my mom right away, and they, called me laughing. And then Amber had some candy and some little cans of Diet Coke delivered that afternoon from my local grocery store. Hilarious! So anyway, I thought it might be fun for all of you to just, we've all seen those kids come out of wisdom teeth removal and they're all a little loopy and talking. Yeah, that's where I was at. So it's just an audio recording, so I'll just see if I can add it at the end here. Until next time, no green bananas, waddle on, keep it colorful, keep your fork. I love you all. Be thankful that you have two hands. Bye.
Hi, it's your mom. I'm all done. It went good. Nurses were very nice. And I can't feel my arm or move it at all. Not at all. I think Dad's in Cub. So I was just going to tell you that I'm very sleepy, but I love you so much. And I love Speedy. And I hope he's good. I'm going to take a nap today. And my nurses were very nice. I can't feel my hand at all, but that's okay. I think you should call me later, but I'll be sleeping, I think, because I had surgery this morning. Everyone was very nice. My doctor was very good. One of the nurses said my doctor was the very best. I liked him. And when I got done, they gave me a little Diet Coke because I was thirsty. It was very, very nice of them. Very nice in one of those tiny little cans. The little bitty ones that I never buy. Okay. Dad's not here. I think I have to turn this off somehow. He left it for me. I love you very much.